You know when a faction has been starved of releases, when even people who are not collectors of that faction are getting excited about the fact that they finally get some new models. Now before we feast our eyes upon Von Ryan's Leaper, this video is sponsored by Dungeons & Lasers 5 World of Deus. We'll be hearing more from them later on. But for now, firstly, who is Von Ryan? I don't know. Admittedly, you can find a reference to Von Ryan in the 3rd edition Tyranid Codex. And I'm of the opinion that the main reason they decided to bring back Von Ryan's Leaper was solely to see how many people still had their 3rd edition codexes, because it feels like when this was announced, when this article went live, all of social media was full of people going, I recognise that name, I might have that codex still, I'm going to go into the loft, I'm going to go into the basement, I'm going to dig through the cupboards, I've found it, I still own it, and then immediately show that they have found the reference to Von Ryan's Leaper out of that codex and post it for everyone to see, which, to be honest, I really liked seeing that. It was a really nice little kind of, I don't know, it's like watching people get a hit of nostalgia in real time. And it also means that they're doing the thing that they've done before, which is bring back, maybe not like fan favourites necessarily, but things that people have recognised from previous editions, and then breathing life into it and making it a thing, an actual model, as opposed to just an interesting reference that at the time didn't really go anywhere as far as I could tell. Anyway, this is Von Ryan's Leaper itself, and you know what, I like it. It's got a mix of like termagant and lictor going on, which I believe makes sense in the context of the little diagram that it was originally mentioned in that 3rd edition codex. It's pretty creepy, pretty nasty. It also does kind of give me hope that we might see a reimagined lictor, unless these are like a replacement for the lictor, but I don't know whether they'd replace it or not. I would hope that it would get redone to match these, so they're like not as big, they move in packs, they're not a single unit, they are like, there's like a group of them, and I like the design of them a lot. Very, very similar in a lot of respects to the Hormigant that we've already seen, the redesigned Hormigant. Yeah, they look decent. The big, like, arching claws over the top, which are super reminiscent of the lictor itself. I really like the kind of updated version of those. They just look just more detailed, more crisp. They look a bit more organic, which it seems like a weird thing to say, because all the Tyranid stuff is organic. That's the whole point. But I think just overall, the extra amount of detail that they can put into sculpts these days just makes it more convincing, I guess. The mouths are like super interesting to me. There's like a combination of the almost like Cthulhu-esque tentacle nonsense going on with the lictor and just kind of weird mandibles. They're like actual claws, but sticking out of the face. In fact, those claws sticking out of the face are very similar to the ones that you see out of the Haruspex, which is absolute nightmare fuel. One of my favourite Tyranid models. Love it. It kind of reminds me of that quite a lot. I really do like the fact that you can see kind of multiple other Tyranid organisms in these new models. You've got that kind of like jutting spike out of the top of this one's head, which is pretty reminiscent of the Swarm Lord. You have those lictor-like arching claws coming out of the shoulders. The mouth claws really make me think of the Haruspex, and then you've got the kind of talons at the front, which are very, very reminiscent of what the Hormigant has. And I've just realised that I think I might have been using Termagant and Hormigant interchangeably at this point, which was not intentional, but oh well. Now they've been kind enough to show off some alternate angles of these lads further down, but before we get to those, this video is sponsored by Dungeons & Lasers 5 World of Deus, the new Kickstarter from Archon Studio, and the 5th in their Dungeons & Lasers series. The campaign goes live today, and in it you can find over 400 plastic miniatures, including multi-part models with different weapon options, a 5th edition compatible bestiary with over 150 encounter choices. If you're not a 5th edition player, don't worry, there's also system agnostic descriptions in there as well, plus a fully fledged RPG campaign book. Every pledge level is customizable, so you can decide what you want outside of the core set, and no matter which one you choose, you're going to end up paying less than $1 per model for some high quality plastic miniatures. Head over to the World of Deus Kickstarter using the links in the description or the pinned comment. Thank you very much to Dungeons & Lasers 5 World of Deus for sponsoring the video. Let's get back to it. I do love an alternate angle. I much prefer when we get alternate angles. You can appreciate it so much better when you can just see more of the model. It's one of my main gripes when it comes to some of the like previews they do, where they'll show a model that potentially could look awesome, but it's one of the ones that there are some that just don't photograph well from one static angle. Like a prime example that we've been over, I don't know how many times at this point, is Sanguinius. Sanguinius did not look great when they first showed that model off. He looked kind of weirdly posed and a bit awkward. Soon as you could spin that dude 360 degrees, it all made sense, and it actually turned out to be quality. So whenever they throw these in, which it feels like they do pretty much every time now, I prefer it a lot more, because get such a better feel for the pose for these. I mean, there's a lot going on with them. They have multiple, like, there's 6 limbs, 7 if you include the tail, potentially even more if you include all the weird mouth stuff that's going on with them. And whilst they look fine from the front pose, you can see more of like the carapace and like the chitin and just the little details on the tail, like the little kind of holes in the tail. I really like that detail. It could have been plainer than that, but that just adds a little extra to it. Also, the kind of flesh between the... I want to say hooves. They're not hooves, that's not what they are, but like the feet. The feet and the legs, not hooves. The feet and the legs, that kind of extra bit of interesting, like, squidgy bits down there. I don't know, the detail on that is... It's nice in that it's there, but it also makes it a little bit more gross and kind of makes it more alien, which is what you want, obviously. But yeah, I don't know. I like the fact that they've got so many different like gribbly bits on the skin. They've kind of kept that aspect of it, and if anything, it just looks better than it used to. I keep like thinking of the Lictor as a comparison to this, because it's similar in terms of its layout, so to speak, but it's just so much crisper, it's so much cleaner, and all those little extra details, they're present on older Tyranid models, but they are so much more... They're just so much more fine on the newer ones, and I just like being able to see that more easily. I also hadn't fully appreciated the fact that it seems like we've got 6 eyes, so 3 on either side, which is just a fun detail. I also really like the way they've painted the claws on this as well. That red kind of streak, or the kind of red shading that's going on the ones that are kind of further over, I like that a lot. It's kind of interesting because the rest of the model is still very like pink and purple, but the red kind of sets it off just that little bit more. They do look like they'd be fun to paint. Maybe a bit complex, a bit complicated. But it's one of those models where there's lots of different like textures going on. It's not like cloth and metal or anything, but like the chitin is a different texture to the rest of the flesh, but then you've got these kind of more fleshy areas that then go into claws, which is a slightly different texture to everything else. I do like the fact that the chitin and the claws, they could have made it pretty much the same, but they haven't. There's like a distinct difference between them. I mean, even the faces have got a lot of different like textures going on. The tentacles are going to need to be like really smooth and kind of very well shaded to make them look like they are more kind of, I don't know, like what's the word, like kind of slippery almost? Gross. But they're going to need to look really different from the claws that are coming out, or they're just not going to look right. It's a good looking model. It is a good looking model. I'm now really, really hoping that we do see an update to the Lictor, because that's still cool. That is still a cool model, but I mean, especially with the Von Ryan's Leapers, it is totally showing its age now. But when you look at kind of all the little gribbly bits on this, and if you imagine what this would be if it was up to the same standard, or like up to date, for some reason it feels harsh saying of the same standard when this was sculpted how many years ago? I don't know. Getting on a bit, that's for damn sure. But that, if it looked as good as that, would be amazing. That'd be great. And we already know that we're getting an update to Termagants and Hormagants, so maybe it's on the cards. It would be nice if it was. Anyway, these are Von Ryan's Leapers. I'm absolutely loving it. I can't wait to see what else to do for Tyranids. I really can't. It feels like, I don't know, it feels like these are hitting the spot. They're properly good, and the Tyranid range just feels much neglected. Maybe not quite as bad as the Phoenix Lords, but still much neglected, and it's going to be really nice to see things brought up to date and actual new stuff delivered. It's going to be good. It has to be. Don't mess this up, lads. Don't mess it up, alright? Anyway, I'm loving it. The question is, what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. In the meantime, feel free to click all the things, Patreon, video scroll, all that stuff. Thank you very much to Dungeons and Lasers 5 World of Deathslave for sponsoring the video. Again, you can find that link in the description and in the pinned comment. And I will see you for the next one.